I've seen so many nursing students and nurses have issues with this. I'm about to make heart blocks so easy. For me, learning heart blocks was super overwhelming at first, but I realized there is a really easy way to actually decipher between them. And that is just to simply think of the PR interval no matter what. Only pay attention to the PR interval when you know that it's a heart block. So first, going over first degree, we have a normal ECG here where you see the PR intervals are under those 5 small boxes, which is 0.20 seconds. So I'm looking at the PR interval, and this is a normal PR interval. Now going over to first degree, we know that this is the first degree heart block because it is greater than those 5 small boxes on your ECG rhythm strip. But the major pointer with first degree is there are no complete blockages. It's just a prolonged PR interval. Now going on to second degree, also called Mobitz 1 or Winky Bach. Once again, we are paying attention to only the PR interval if we're wanting to determine which heart block it is. So with second degree type 1, you heard of longer drop Winky Bach. That is it. There will be some heart blocks in there, but the biggest thing to pay attention to is, once again, the PR interval. You see that it got longer and longer between that P wave and the QRS, but then there was eventually a drop. And then once again, you see it pick back up with that PR interval being shortened. Now, second degree type 2 takes it a step further. So once again, only pay attention to that PR interval. And the number one rule you want to remember with second degree type 2 is the PR interval is always the same. No matter how many blocks there are, if that PR interval, as you can see circled here, it's long here, we know it's greater than 5 small boxes, and then you have a drop, and then it's the same with that P wave in the QRS complex, that PR interval is the exact same distance as the original. So to recap, the second degree type 2 heart block, the PR interval is always the same. So when there actually is a PR interval, there's a P wave and a QRS complex together, that distance is always the same. Now moving on to the last heart block to remember, it is the third degree, and once again, we only look at the PR interval, because in third degree, you're seeing there's heart blocks in there, but in the third degree, the PR intervals are never the same. So when we think about second degree type 2 versus third degree, we know that third degree is never the same versus second degree type 2 always has the same PR interval. So going back, you see that the PR interval is super narrow here. There's heart blocks in between, but look at the PR interval here. It's completely different. So when you're trying to decide if it's second degree type 2 versus third degree, then just know, look only at the PR interval, and you're going to find out really quickly just by looking at the PR interval by itself. So one of the biggest challenges people have with heart blocks is just knowing the difference between second degree type 2 or if it's a third degree heart block. So here is an example of how we can quickly identify it. So we have one example here that has heart blocks, but the PR interval on the first one is 6 boxes. There's the heart block. And then the PR interval here is also 6 boxes. Okay, so just determining the difference, we know that second degree type 2 has always the same PR interval. And then we have third degree where there's heart blocks, and then we look that the PR intervals are not the same. The first example had 6 boxes, and then the second PR interval had 1 box.